to another edition of Swim Swam Live. I'm Coleman Hodges. We are joined by Swim Swam editor in Keith.
You do that every time.
Editor in chief, Braden Keith. And we're here talking about the big news that in the class of 2025, number 1, Alex Shackell, and number 3, Claire Weinstein, both announced their verbal commitment to Cal yesterday. Let's break this down. First of all, just what were your initial reactions, Braden, to this huge news? First, we had Alex Shackell, which was already big news, but then the other hat drops. Claire Weinstein announces later that day.
It was a great day for the Cal women. They also had 2 other commits, a transfer and a 2024, not at the same level as Alex and Claire, but still good swimmers. So it's a good thing. My reaction was that it's not surprising to see this happening, right? We know who Dave Durden is. He's the ASCA Coach of the Year. He had most of the U.S. men's medley relay, 3 out of the last 4 men's NCAA titles. Like, Dave Durden is who he is. And while that's men, I don't know. I'm taking that chance, right? If it's not Virginia, I'm taking that chance. And he coached Missy Franklin. He coached Natalie Coughlin, so it's not like he's never coached women before. And then Dave Marsh, who's won NCAA titles with men and women when he was at Auburn. And then you throw in Josh Huger, who, at Tennessee, and in Tennessee, whether they always hit their taper at NCAAs or not, you can't argue with their recruiting. They were juggernauts on the recruiting trail. They were picking up all kind of swimmers all the time, it seems like. So between that trio and, the rest of the staff, of course, I'm sure was involved, recruiting is going to be easy. I don't want to say it's going to be easy, but that's a trio that I want to recruit behind. I think I could recruit swimmers with that trio in front of me. And so, Alex makes sense, right? With the Durden and Marsh Auburn connections, with her brother going there. I think Claire was a bit more of a surprise.
Hold the phone for a sec.
Okay.
I am not familiar. Did her parents go to Auburn? Is that the connection there?
Yeah, her parents were both very good swimmers at Auburn. Her dad was an Olympian. When Marsh was the head, her dad swam there when Marsh was the head coach. I don't think her dad overlapped with Durden, but I think her mom did. Her mom got there like 2003, 2004. But yeah, there's an old Auburn connection there. It seems like all roads will lead back to Auburn sometimes. But yeah, so Shackell made sense, right? She's a sprinter. She does what Cal does. There's a lot of reasons for that. Claire, and I'm sure you have a specific question about this to ask, but Claire's a distance swimmer, right? She's coming from the Sandpiper program that does things a certain way. I think that's a bit more of a surprise. Part of me wonders if we look at the Cal pattern, right? You go there, you be an associate head coach for a year or 2, then you get your own program. So part of me wonders if there's a plan in place here where Josh Huger in 2025 goes off to some other ACC school, takes over his own program, and then there's an opening. And I think it's kind of an open secret that Ron Aiken would love to get into college coaching. I mean, maybe that's the move. This is 2 years away, right? Like that's an entirely plausible sort of pathway.
Absolutely. And we saw kind of a lot of these points in the comments, and I thought that was fascinating. I mean, just how much more could you pummel competition into the ground if you not only got, some of the top sprint coaches in the world, with Marsh and Durden, but you got Ron Aitken on your staff. And this is like purely speculation at this point, right? But It's interesting. There were also comments of just, Cal doesn't develop distance swimmers. And I thought that was an unfair claim. Someone specifically brought up Sean Grisham, who went all best times at Cal in his primary events. So it's like, I don't know if that necessarily tracks, but it is interesting that we haven't seen them develop top distance swimmers maybe on an international level, right?
Yeah, I don't think that's an unreasonable statement. The good news is in women's distance swimming in America right now, it's not that we're weak, but we're very weak at the collegiate level. The last couple of years, there hasn't been a lot of depth. So there's an opportunity for big points there. I think the Cal men have been built around what wins NCAA titles. You don't need distance swimmers. Unfortunately for distance swimmers, you don't need them to win NCAA titles. And Dave Durden, if nothing else, is the most unapologetic I'm here to win NCAA titles guy. Thinking back to when he had his swimmers skip the Pac-12 championships to go race a Grand Prix meet across the country. Like, Dave Durden does not care about anything but winning NCAA titles. And so, like, he's done what he needs to do. But Claire is a kind of a different level distance swimmer. And I also think in the women's sport, you can do more, right? Like the average female distance swimmer is more likely to develop to contribute to a relay, an 800 free relay or whatever. So I think there's value there. I think the choice makes sense. And she's a special distance swimmer, a very special distance swimmer. I don't think it's unreasonable to say that Cal isn't known for distance swimming. They've had a few guys that haven't worked out. It's not an unreasonable take. And Durden's a sprint guy. Marsh is a sprint guy. I don't know what Josh is. I think he's a sprint guy. Who else is on their staff? Do they have a distance coach?
They have Kim Williams, and then they have someone who I think maybe was a volunteer last year. I don't remember his name.
So nobody with a distance reputation, I'd say. Yeah. So we'll see how it works out.
I'm curious your thoughts on we discussed this, obviously the Shackell pipeline, that's kind of obvious. Why, in your eyes, why do you think Claire Weinstein chose Cal? I mean, she was obviously teammates on the World Champs team this year with Alex Shackell. But it's like there's a lot of options, and especially to announce right away in September, same day as Alex did. What do you think is going on there in Claire's mind?
So I did ask around to see if these two had just become best friends or something, and there wasn't any indication of that. Not like they have beef or they don't get along or whatever, but it wasn't like they talked and decided, let's do this together. There was no implication from anybody that I spoke with that happened. I'm sure the announcement was timed that way, but I don't think the choice was timed that way. I think practically, if you're a swimmer from the Western U.S., and you don't want to go across the country, what are your choices right now? USC, I think the boat's still out on Lee Maurer. Stanford is just, there's a lot of sort of dourness about that program right now, a lot of frustration about their international results, where Arizona is in trouble. There's Arizona State with the men. The women haven't really shown it yet, but those are your choices, right? Arizona State and Cal, if you're at that, I want to be an Olympic gold medalist level. Where else are you going to go? I think it might be as simple as that. I mean, I'm sure we're going to try to have Claire on to talk about the decision and let her answer for herself, but that's the way I would look at it.
That's a good point. Yeah, I didn't even think about, and that's there are so many factors that go into this. I totally forgot. It's like, it's close to home. Relatively. Right. Vegas to San Francisco is a quick flight away. I'm sure it's drivable too. Doesn't want to move to the East Coast. So the crazy part about this to me is that this is 2 years away, right? Like they are juniors in high school. They still have 2 full seasons of high school before they're even arriving to Cal. But in your mind, do you see this as the Cal women maybe starting to become the next NCAA dynasty?
It's the start. Virginia's still over there on the other side doing a lot of things. These are 2 big pieces. I'm sure, especially Alex, they would have loved to have had. But Virginia keeps winning, right? They just got Claire Curzon. So, it's did I say Cal? Virginia. Virginia keeps winning. So, Virginia's not going anywhere, I don't think. There's no indication that the Virginia women are slowing down. So I think that's going to be amazing, especially with them in the same conference next season or starting next season.
Yeah.
Which unfortunately, again, Durden's not going to go after ACC. So he'll probably finish 5th at ACCs and then go win the NCAA title. But I think it's definitely they're back in the conversation, right? They're back on the table as an option for high school swimmers that are looking for a place to go, looking at their options. Everybody's going to take an official, especially with the new official rules, official recruiting visit rules, kind of opening up a little bit. So they're back. They need more pieces to compete, right? And I think I would guess in 2025 they have pretty close to a full allotment of scholarships to give. So these two might both be on fulls and they'd still have plenty of money to give. So I think, to me, what's going to determine how this goes is who's next. Can they get some of those 15 to 20 ranked swimmers? Can they get some of those best of the rest to fill out the relays? To win a women's NCAA title, it takes 8 to 10 to 12. You can get top 10 with a couple, but you can't win with 2 to 4. You need 8 to 12. So that's going to take class of 2026 and maybe even class of 2027 to get there, because there's not a ton being held over from the prior classes. So 2025 will be the start of it, and we'll see what comes next.
Yeah, really. I mean, the class of 2024, I would say Virginia pretty handily dominated that one. Yeah. I think they have like 5 of our top 20 at least. Yeah. So it does look like they've got momentum still going, but I'm really curious to see what their identity is going to look like, without Kate Douglas this year, and then potentially without Alex Walsh next year, 2 of their really heavy scorers. And I guess that's another topic for another time, but I'm really excited to see how Cal keeps rolling after this.
Roll on, you Cal Bears.
All right. Well, thanks everyone for joining us for this. Do you have any thoughts before we sign off?
Just anything like everybody else, no thoughts.
Well, thanks everyone for joining. This is big news, and hopefully we'll have some more big college news coming your way.